So the legal requirements for being a health coach don't exist. There are no guidelines or regulation when it comes to being a health coach. We have just as many people who have no experience in healthcare being health coaches and giving individual medical advice to people. And we have as many physicians whose practice is mostly about health coaching and not so much prescribing. So how do we make sense of all that? And how do we make sure that we stay within the boundaries of the law? Let's get into that. So my name is Dr. Mo. You can check me out at digitalnomadphysician.com. I have a good number of podcast episodes, YouTube videos, and lots of articles on my website talking about this, health coaching. And of course, there's a big fear about it. As a physician, you might think, well, I'm not allowed to be a health coach. Well, actually, not only are you allowed to be a health coach, you are essentially always a health coach before you're anything else. A way to think about it, though, from the perspective of a regulator of the state medical board, they don't want you to pretend to be a health coach just so that you can go see somebody who is in a different state. If I'm licensed in California and I start giving quasi-medical advice to someone in Texas, that's the practice of medicine, and you can't practice medicine in Texas. So that's what we are really going to dive into deep. So check it out. The way I broke it down, these 5 categories, I think are going to give you a good sense of what we're going to talk about in this video and the big pitfalls of medicine, practicing medicine and health coaching, and where those two intersect. So the first one is giving individualized medical advice. The second one is ordering any kind of testing. The third one is interpreting any kind of test. The fourth one is offering a diagnosis or an assessment or impression. And the last one is documentation. This is the crux. This is what we do as physicians. If we do that as a health coach, we are overstepping our boundaries. I should mention that quite a few attorneys do believe that a physician should not do any health coaching. It's too risky. And that should there be a problem, the state medical board is going to hold you responsible for your highest licensure, meaning that if you're an MD and they think you practice medicine, they can just say, well, you have an MD, therefore the patient may have assumed that you're a doctor. I can't give you legal advice, but I can tell you that there are people who have tried to work around this, and you're going to have to decide what is the right option for you, what's the best option for you to proceed. When it comes to offering medical advice means, hey, Mo, you should do this kind of exercise. Mo, you should do this kind of nutrition. Mo, you should do this kind of meditation so that you can help this diagnosis. That's individual medical advice. That's essentially prescribing somebody an intervention. A better way to do that is to say, the CDC, the WHO, the research out of the NIH says that getting 150 minutes of activity is really good for you. So let's talk about what you can do to achieve that, because it sounds like you're having trouble with that. And that's what a health coach does. A health coach helps someone identify the problems that they believe they have and helps them overcome it. And remember, if you're a health coach and the client is hiring you to be their health coach, they probably don't want you to be their physician, and you shouldn't act as their physician. That's your health coaching client. Your patient is your patient. So while you can give general medical advice on things that they can do, you should avoid giving them an individualized prescription of the activity and exercises that they can do. If they're having joint pain from a specific exercise, they should go see their physician. Chances are somebody who's going to come to your health coaching practice, especially if it's a proper health coaching practice, they're going to have their own physician, and you can have them talk about it. You can share with them what you do with your own patients. You can share what you do for your own health. That's perfectly fine. And you can share publicly available information with someone without giving them individualized advice. Now, I think the delivery of this might be a little bit harder, but if you do it a few times, you'll understand what the difference is. So the next one is ordering tests. I mean, to me, that's intuitive, but yeah, you're not allowed to order tests. You're not allowed to prescribe medications. You're not allowed to order imaging tests. Now, you might say, well, but there is this lab that lets anybody order fecal tests. Yes, you can do that. The problem is you have a medical license. And even though what other people are doing is inappropriate, is practicing medicine essentially because they're ordering a test and then they're interpreting it. They're a health coach. They used to be a hairdresser. Now they decided to be a health coach. And by the way, they might be really good at what they do. but they are still practicing medicine. It's just that the state medical board is not going to go after them. But if you are ordering a fecal analysis test or a GI biome test on somebody, or hair analysis through Rupa or some other third-party lab, and then you're interpreting that, you're practicing medicine, especially if you have a medical license. You may never get on anybody's radar, nobody might ever come after you, but the point is, you don't want to do something unethical, and this would be considered unethical. Instead, if somebody wants to go pursue some sort of test, they can do that. You can even advise them of all the different tests that are out there for fecal testing, hair testing, saliva testing, cortisol testing, Dutch tests, all the different things. You can advise them on doing that. But that takes us to the next one, which is interpreting or assessing or coming up with a diagnosis of a lab test or any kind of test. Interpreting a test means, hey, you got an MRI, it shows an ACL tear. That's interpreting and diagnosing it. Now, if the person comes to you and says, I have an ACL tear and I'm trying to figure out ways that I can do activities that are not going to damage it, you can say that usually one of the things that I do with my own health coaching clients is we focus on strengthening the muscles and joints around a joint. That's something you can discuss with your physician and consider doing. The activities that I usually do with my health coaching clients or with my own patients are these. I can take you through them and you can decide and see if it's the right fit for you. I know it sounds a little bit like you're mincing words, but it actually really matters because, again, you're trying to constantly demonstrate to them that I am not your doctor. I don't want to be your doctor. That's the whole point of being a health coach, is that I'm detaching from that stigma that you might have with clinical medicine, and I'm really focusing on the advice, the guidance, and just helping you analyze information, overcome personal hurdles and barriers. Of course, interpreting lab results would be blood tests, urine tests, any kind of random lab tests like we already talked about, imaging studies. Any of that is considered the interpretation of lab results. If somebody wants to show you their lipid panel, you're more than welcome to take a look at it. Analyzing that lipid panel is a very bad idea. However, you can share with them the current guidelines for LPA levels, normal LP(a) levels. The normal guidelines for normal ApoB levels are this. Somebody in this category is considered to have an elevated risk of a certain condition. And of course, diagnosing someone with SIBO, diagnosing someone with chronic fatigue syndrome, which is unfortunately very, very common in this health coaching space, in this alternative health space, is a big no-no. That is unethical. It is wrong. If you're not entering a patient-doctor relationship, for you to give somebody a diagnosis, you must have done a proper assessment, and the medical board is going to want to know all the proper assessment. However, again, if you're in the diagnosis business, go get the state medical license for that state and go see that person as a physician. But a health coaching client should never look for an assessment or diagnosis from you. Either you've chosen the wrong person to be in your practice, or you've set the wrong expectations and the person's just confused about what it is that you offer and don't offer. So we don't offer assessments, we don't offer diagnosis. I can't interpret your results, but I can give you guidance on achieving your health goal based on the habits and interventions that are known to be effective in achieving that said result. Finally, the last one's pretty straightforward, documentation. So as a physician and patient, I usually will do a SOAP note, I'll do a HEADS assessment, I'll document everything, I'll write everything down, and the reason is that's what's required of me from my state medical board. When you're health coaching, you're getting to know someone and helping them, guide them through everything that I already said. I'm not going to repeat it and beat it to death, but you don't want to be documenting it. I don't want to keep documentation on someone. Now, I know in the health coaching world, that's what's happening. Everybody's essentially practicing quasi-medicine. They even have electronic health records, and they're keeping notes and coming up with assessments, and they're writing it in a SOAP note. In fact, some of them will say assessment and plan, which again is not appropriate. You can write some notes for yourself about how to help somebody through habit changes, but I wouldn't write the name of the patient anywhere in any format and write notes about them, their past medical history, their family history. If you need to do that, then you need to practice medicine. If you need all that information to be the health coach for someone, you need to be practicing medicine. But if you need to help someone with some of their daily habits, activities, and help them kind of make sense of like, hey, Dr. Mo, can I ask you a question about this situation? For example, my doctor recommended that I start a statin. What do you think about that? Should I start a statin? A physician will say, let's look at the current guidelines, let's look at your lab results, let's look at your past medical history, and let's come up with the proper decision. My recommendation is that you start on the statin because your risk is elevated. A health coach will say, let's dive into what your concerns are when it comes to a statin. Well, I'm really worried it's going to damage my liver and my kidney and that. When it comes to that information, how do you go about figuring out what your risk is? Well, I've read on forums. Do you think that a forum is a good representation of the actual risk? No, I realize that maybe some people will write something based on their fears and maybe it's not always true. What is your overall goal in life? Are you trying to get to 70, 80, 90 without any diseases, or is it more important to you that you get there without any medications? Well, it's more important to me that I'm around for my grandkids. Based on that, what risk did your doctor share with you about your cholesterol profile if you're not on medication? Well, my doctor said that chances are about 30% I'm going to have a heart attack. Do you feel that you're comfortable with a 30% risk over the next few decades? Also, given the fact that you don't know how your health is going to progress, you might develop other conditions, you might have other infections, you may not have the time to dedicate and focus on things, or you might have a lot of time and effort and energy and money to dedicate on the perfect diet and the perfect exercise routine. That's health coaching. That's helping somebody come up with the right decision matrix, given the right information, with a health coach putting that information into perspective. So I hope I gave you a good idea, and I know there's many of these videos in this series, but I constantly try to talk about it in different ways. At any given time, having a proper client and health coach agreement is incredibly important so that it outlines exactly what you do and what you don't do. You can have a good attorney write that up for you. You can go check out digitalnomadphysician.com for many attorney recommendations. I have my own health coaching agreement with my health coaching clients. And I think you should run your business by an attorney. The way you talk, the way you present things, the way you follow up with someone. Every single step should be properly outlined, discuss with an attorney, just so you feel comfortable that this is a proper business that you can run safely without putting the patient at risk. Go to digitalnomad.com, digitalnomadphysician.com, and leave some comments below. Tell me what worries and concerns you have. I would love to hear what things you've discovered about the difference between practicing medicine and being a health coach.